Really, for much of my life, I've been sort of a bit an outcast in a world that is traditionally a male-dominated sport. And so I thought I had been through it all. I played professional men's hockey in both Finland and Sweden for 3 seasons. I'll probably write a book on all the experiences I went through there, both good and bad. But this year with our team was for sure the most difficult year and journey I've ever had in my hockey career. And so our slogan went from dig a little deeper, which was the start of our Olympic journey, because the whole concept of training for the Olympic Games is that you train so hard, you put in so much front-loaded preparation so that when you get to the Olympics actually feels easy. And that's what every Olympian strives to do. When you actually go to the Olympics, that's the easiest part of the journey. Getting there is the hardest, and I'm sure it's no different in your business. All the preparation and time that you put in to actually roll out an event or a marketing plan or whatever it might be, when it actually happens, you sit back and let the work take care of itself. So I think our story was a little bit about courage and resiliency, and about having and playing with skill and sandpaper, which is what we like to kind of characterize Canadian hockey as. We play with skill, and we also play with a little bit of sandpaper at the same time. And so our May boot camp was 45 days long. It was in Penticton, BC. And every day we did about 10 to 12 hours of actual physical activity, which included everything from biking, running, dragon boating, yoga, you name it, we pretty much did it. And at the very last day, on the 45th day, they had us climb Apex Mountain. Now, Apex Mountain is one of the hardest climbs in Canada. It's a tour-ranked climb, and most people have difficult time doing it on a road bike, but they made us do it on really bad mountain bikes, uphill in the rain. And what we didn't know at that time was how that very last day would come back to help us in the overtime of the gold medal game that we would play in Sochi to win the gold against the Americans. And so everybody left Penticton on that last day, crusty, missing your families. 27 women in very close quarters for a long time is not a good recipe for anything, as probably many of you know. And we went home for a bit, and then we came back to Calgary to start our journey. And our journey was 60 games in 6 months, which is an incredible schedule for any hockey team. At one point in time, we had 17 of 24 players who were injured, taped, or braced. Myself, I had a broken foot that I was playing through. And it was also our worst win-loss record of our entire 4 Olympic centralization quads that we had been through. We lost more games than we ever had before, despite having what I would think would be our best team that we've ever had. So things were just not going well. And as I said earlier, the Olympics is about performance on demand. And we just couldn't figure out a way to perform. But there were many things that happened, I think, that aligned us back on track to get to that gold in Sochi. And the first for me was probably starting in the very first Olympics that I competed in, which was in 1998 in Nagano, Japan, the first ever Winter Olympics for women's hockey. As Canadians, and those of you that aren't Canadian, you'll hear from our Canadians in the crowd that we think we are the best in hockey, and we dominate and we win at most competitions that we go into. Which in 1998, when I was 19 years old, I thought that we were just going to go to the Olympics and take home the gold medal, and it was going to be a no-brainer because everybody expected us to. We were the favorites. What I found at the end of the games was I was standing on the blue line looking across at the Americans with the gold medal hanging around their neck, celebrating, and looking at the rest of my teammates crying. And at 19, you don't really have a lot of perspective in your life. You think you do, but you don't. And so for about a year after that, I went into what we call a bit of an Olympic depression, because everything that I thought I was wrapped up in who I was as a hockey player. So if we were successful and I played well and I was scoring goals, then I was a good person and I was, everything was going well. And if we lost, then I was a failure and I let my family, my friends, my country down. And so about 6 months into that, one of my former coaches, Wally Kozak, saw that I was struggling. And so he came up to me and he gave me this piece of paper with a quote. And the quote said, "A gold medal is a wonderful thing, but if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it." And I took this paper, and I still have it to this day. I keep it in my wallet, and every World Championship or Olympic Games, I take it out and I tape it onto the top of my stall. When I look up between periods, it reminds me, and it helps me cope with the pressure and the expectations of always being expected to win gold medals. That at the end of the day, it's just a hockey game. It doesn't define me as a person. The second dose of perspective that came into my life was when my son Noah was born. He's now 14 years old, so he's been through a few Olympic cycles with me, and people always say, oh, does your son play hockey? And I have to reluctantly tell them that he actually hates hockey. He doesn't, which is probably true of most high performers with their kids. They go a different direction. But for him, hockey is boring, and he thinks, why would anybody in the world want to play that game? There's way better things that you could be doing with your time. And so in Vancouver in 2010, he brought a Harry Potter book to the gold medal game, just in case he got bored. He actually sat in the stands and read it. And this time in Sochi, it was a little different. He actually, I think, got it. And I got a text message before I went out on the ice to start the game, and it was from him. And he said, hey, Mom, when you come up from the tunnel, have a look into the stands on the right. I'll be standing there. And so as I came up through the tunnel, he had made a sign that said, go, Mom, and he had his Canada gloves and his whole outfit on. And he was high-fiving our whole team and seemed to be quite into the game, even though he told me after, yeah, it was all right, So